Hi, my name is Trey Brimmer. I'm with Mitel, and today I'm going to talk about the MiCollab console. I want to show you a few things about it. The first thing I want to show you is what the application looks like. So what we're looking at here is this little icon over to your left-hand side. It looks like a little bow tie. Initially, to get to the console, you'll have to go through the MiCollab client, which is, you'll have kind of a link plugin, so yours may look a little bit different, but initially you'll click on this. It'll open up the client, which is in the center of your screen. And if you look at the little fellow here who's circled, that's the attendant icon, and you'll click on that to get into the MiCollab console. Now, there's going to be some instructions sent out when you are either this application is either pushed out to you, or if it's loaded on your PC, you'll need a username and passcode, as well as you'll need to go through and pick a new passcode and set up your basic settings, like you know, do you want it to automatically launch, and do you want it to remember your passcode? So as you're loading this up the first time, you kind of read through things, don't go too quickly, and make sure it's set up the way you want it to be. Once you open up the console, it'll look like this guy does here. You can see that above, the very top, you have your call control keys. This will control like answer and hang up and transfer, so you don't need to go back to your desk phone. This is controlling your desk phone, so you know, you always can turn to your desk phone if you're in a pinch. You're not sure what to do next. You can always just pick up the handset on your desk phone and transfer calls that way. But I do recommend trying to get used to this. So really play with it a lot and use it for the first few weeks, and then you can go back and forth between the two worlds if you want. But these are all your call controls up top. You can see they're associated to little F keys, so those are on your computer. If you wanted to answer a call by hitting F2, you could do so. I'll show you what each of those little buttons do. Then you have these panels. There's your active call panel. That'll show the calls as they're ringing in. You'll get a audible ring as well as seeing it show up in this panel. It'll give you a timer and the caller ID and what's the status. Is it ringing or is it answered? So you can answer the calls in these panels by either double-clicking on the call as it comes in or going up top and hitting the highlighted answer key. You can see that everything's grayed out. It's only available if this function is available. So the only thing that will happen when a call comes in is it'll light up the answer key only, because you can't transfer it until you've answered it. So it'll make some sense, and it'll help you pick the right button. The next little panel over here is your transfer calls. It'll show calls as they're transferred until they're picked up or go to voicemail. And then below is your DSS BLF area, which is all your stations alphabetically. In this case, it's by first name, but by default, it'll be by last name. And you'll be able to type in the last name to find people. The more letters, obviously, the better. And then over here to the far right, you have an area where you can kind of do some special call handling. If you had somebody you had to transfer and announce, you can drag them over here, and they will show up. They'll be in both spots, so I could pick somebody on my list and drag them and drop them into this area, and then I would know I could handle them differently or set up a special. You can also set up a group here, like an IT group or a sales group, and see all those individuals, and you get to see if they're on or off the phone, as well as you can set up a feature, something like a page button or a park button. You can also set up a contact, an outside number. So if you had some people with cell phones and you need to call their cell phones or transfer calls out to their cell phones, you could set up buttons so it would be one button push to do that. So there's a lot of good things you can do with this little extra panel. It'll be closed when you initially open it up, and I'll show you how to open that up as we move along. So let's take a closer look at these panels. So you can see here's an active call coming in. You can see no name on this one. You'll see name and number depending on who's calling you. And then you can see there's a timer. It's at 0 now, but it'll keep on going. And then it's ringing currently. So I know I need to answer that call. And what's happened is this F2 key has turned blue, so that's my only available thing to do, or go to help. The little circle with the question mark is your help, and that'll always stay lit. So I can hit answer at any point. I can also double click on this gray line to answer the call, or I can right-click and it would offer me answer. You can right-click all through here and it'll give you all the options also, and they'll be lit up or grayed out. So if I right-clicked, there'd be a whole list of items I could pick from, but the only thing that would be available to me was answer. The next little area was that transferred call panel we talked about. And that'll only be there after you transfer the call. It'll sit there until it's either answered or it goes to voicemail. And I could double click on this line. Double click's a big deal within this system. So I could go ahead and double click and recover that. Or where that answer key was, and I'll show you this as we go along, it'll turn into a backwards arrow and I could press that to recover the call as well. So I have options there. Here's your DSS BLF key. Like I was telling you, it's initially by last name, but you can change it to first name if that makes sense. Up top, you have a little box up here that'll allow you to type in an extension number if you want, or go ahead and start putting in the name to narrow down your selections. And you can select the different areas. Mine's by country, but you could do by location, and you can look at all the buttons on a location. And then you have below here, you can see you have different call handling for the extension. So if I'm on I have a bunch of inbound calls, but I need to call someone internally, I could just click them once and go down and hit call, and I'd be able to call that person. So we'll look at those, but this is what that DSS panel looks like. I was telling you initially when you opened up your console that you wouldn't see that special handling, but you'll see this little arrow that I have circled over here to the right-hand side. When you click on that arrow, it'll open up your special handling box, and then you can add a contact or a feature code or a group there. If you want to add a person, an internal person, you can just grab them, click on them, and drag them over and drop them into this box. So if you have people that you want to special handle, you can just click and drag them over. It makes it really easy. And you can create a group, call it sales, and then drag a bunch of the salespeople and drop them into the sales group. So pretty cool. And you have little features that you can set up like paging or a button for parking a call, or whatever feature comes up that you'd like to have on there, you can create. So that's your special handling. So let's look at each one individually. First one I want to look at is answering the call. The nice thing about these buttons are when you hover over them, they'll tell you what they are. Let's go ahead and look at that a little closer. So you can see when I hovered on this, it'll tell me it's answered. So there's no great mystery. If you hover over each of these, it'll tell you what they are. You know, it'll tell you hang up or transfer or hold or whatever it is. So you'll know pretty quickly when you're just hovering over these which ones to click. But it does only light up the things that are available. Once you answer this call, the answer will go dark, and all the other ones that are available, like transfer, hang up, hold, will light up. So it only gives you the options that are available. Here's an unknown caller calling in. The phone call is ringing. I have 3 seconds so far. I can now hit answer, or I could double click on this line, answer it, or I can right click on it and pick answer. The next little button on there is your hang up. So you can see I hovered over that so you can see what hang up looks like. I can hang up the phone now. So if someone called and wanted directions, I give them directions and then hang up the phone. The next little key is your hold. It's lit up. So when I'm on an active call, I can hang up or hold. So this would hold it there. To recover it, I can hit the hold again or double click on the line. Here's an unsupervised transfer button. That means unsupervised means unannounced. So I would basically, once I transfer using this button to one of these individuals, it'll hang up and then I'm ready for the next call. It doesn't let me announce it to them. You don't have to necessarily hit this button. You can just go down and double click on anybody. Anytime you double click, it's doing an unsupervised transfer. So if I had a call and I'm live with it, I could go find the person down here, double click, and it sends the call and I'm done. So it's very quick if you're just sending calls. If you need to announce calls, then you'll need to go down and click one time on the person to move this little blue arrow that you see over here at the beginning. Aaron will always be at the very beginning, and you'll need to click on somebody else to get to that individual. So if you're looking at the line, you just click one time, and it'll move that blue arrow to this location, and then you can go up top and hit the supervised transfer. So a call comes in, I've answered it by hitting the answer key. I'm talking to them, I realize they need Aaron here. I would click on Aaron one time and then go up and press the supervised transfer, and then it'll ring the extension. I can then announce it to the person internally I'm calling, and then it'll allow me to press this button again. It'll change this button to a double arrow, which will allow me to complete the transfer. So that's how a supervised transfer goes. If most of the individuals in your office are just, you send the call and you go to the next call, then all you have to do is double click. The only time you really need to go back up here to do a transfer is if you're doing a supervised transfer or if you're doing a transfer to voicemail. You can send calls straight to voicemail. If someone is in Do Not Disturb, you don't have to send it straight to voicemail. Any call you send to their extension will go straight to voicemail. But if you know someone's out of the office, they forgot to put themselves in Do Not Disturb, you can go down, click on the individual down below that you want to transfer it to, and then go up top and hit transfer to voicemail, and that will transfer it straight to voicemail. Right click is a big deal on this too. You can always go down, click here on the person, right click, and then there'll be a choice to transfer to voicemail on the right as you right click. This system is put together for different levels of phone system, and there are a few, well, in this case just one, unused key that will be on your console. It'll just stay grayed out, so no action will happen if you press that. The next key over is your conference calling. My recommendation is kind of that you go to your phone to do conference calling, because all this is doing is operating your phone, but you can do it from here. I just think it's easier from the phone, but the way it happens is a call, either you call somebody or if someone has called in, they'll show up here and you're talking to them, you need to add someone in. You go down just like you would do a transfer and click on the individual one time and then go up to this conference, click on the conference, and you all three will be conferenced together on a call. So it's unlike a transfer but similar. The only deal is you'll stay with the call and talk to the person as well. So once you have conferenced in someone, it's going to give you two new options. The first option that'll light up is going to be split conference. What a split conference is, it's if you ever have a situation where you're on a call with two other individuals and you need to split them off to talk to them individually. So if I have you and someone else on the phone, I could hit split conference. It would basically put you guys on different lines, and then I would immediately go to the first person I talked to. And then if I wanted to talk to the other person, this will light up and let me trade between the two people. So I could toggle between the two people I was talking to. So if for some reason I needed to give you private information and split off the call and make sure you weren't on the conference anymore, I could do the split, talk to you privately, and then go back to the other person and back and forth. I don't know if you would use that much, but it is available to you. If you're running the console as an attendant, then probably it's a good idea not to do a lot of conference calling. You're handling calls up front, but it is a available function. The next little button is for your dial pad. You can just turn to your phone to dial out. You don't need to dial this. It's a little harder to dial the dial pad here. But you have that available. There are things called soft phones that are out there where people won't have a physical device associated to their PC. They'll just have a computer phone and a headset and a microphone. So if you were one of those people, then you would have the ability to dial out as well from your console. So down below, this is how you select an extension. So the box here allows you to either type in first or last name. It'll then narrow down the selection. So obviously the more of the last name or first name you put in, the closer you're going to get. And then when you want to choose somebody, you can see that this little blue arrow has moved because I clicked on them one time. So if I click once, then I can go up to this call handling and complete it. If I click twice, it'll transfer the call unsupervised. So I won't be able to announce it, but it'll be gone. So if a call comes in, I can quickly go down, double click on the person I want to transfer it to, and it goes. Or if I need special handling, like to announce it or to send it straight to voicemail or to set up a conference, I'll click one time and then go up and pick the function I want to do, announce, transfer, or, supervise or announce transfer, or transfer to voicemail. You can see here an example of after I've transferred the call, that it's ringing over here on my transferred call, and I have the ability to double click on that so I could go ahead and recover it, or you can see the answer key has turned into a backwards arrow. If I hover over that, it'll now say recover transfer, and I could just go ahead and click on that to grab back the call or recover the call and then start over again. So if for some reason I dialed the wrong extension, oops, I could go right up top, click on this backwards arrow, or I could just go double click on the line and it would show, it would recover the call and I'd be live with them again. Here's the DSS BLF area. I just wanted to show you a couple things on that. There's a couple pretty interesting things that it does. The first thing is it shows you presence, which shows you if someone's on or off the phone. So you can see the green phones indicate that these are on hook. This red phone, Adam Young, he represents someone who's on the phone currently. And then you can see below that they vary. There are a few gray ones which you won't see. Gray just means it's unplugged. And in our world, there's a lot of people who use soft phones, so when they close their computers, their phones look like they're out. You could still transfer a call and it would go to voicemail to those people, but their phones are soft phones, so they're not seeing them, or the phones aren't active or something. So we have a lot more of that because we have a lot of traveling people. You can see there's little bubbles below some of these. That means that they're available for chat. I don't know if you guys will be using the chat with the link plugin, but that's what that indicates if you see that. It means they're available for chat. You can see down here Amy Rhodes has a yellow chat bubble. That means that she hasn't touched her PC from 5 minutes to an hour, depending on what the settings are. So you can still chat to her, but she may not see it. But chat would be things like, hey, FedEx is here, that kind of thing. So you could actually chat back and forth. The colors also indicate something. When it's this pinkish color, it means they're in a do not disturb type status. Either they've put their MiCollab client, in this case, into a status where they're gone for the day and they have their calls going to voicemail, which turns it yellow, or if they're in do not disturb, it turns it pink, or if they're in do not disturb, it turns it pink. The kind of this lighter blue is indicating that, greenish blue, I guess, indicates that they're on the phone, and then if it's white, they're available. So going across the bottom here, so I showed you how to put in the name, you can see this is how you select the different locations. You just click on the little arrow that's circled, and it'll show you. You could also create favorites. So you can create big lists within your MiCollab client part. Well, I've created a few under my favorites that I have, like the Missouri location. I have some project managers listed in our organization. So I have listed all these contacts in groups, so that way I can see if they're on or off phones. I can quickly get to them. And you can do a combination of not only internal people, but you can do outside people within those lists. So I can pick from those. If I bring them up, it'll just bring up those people. So you can conceivably create a contact list of vendors that you use for outside numbers and then bring those vendors up to look at them all at one time. The next little button over that I circled here shows that you can change the way you're viewing the DSS BLF console. You can either do it by list or by those buttons. Personally, I prefer the buttons because it uses the real estate better that's on the screen, but some people like the list. It shows more information. And you can change back and forth between them, so you can play with it and see what you prefer. Down below, these are all your call control for the stations, because there's a situation that may come in where you have active calls going on, and you don't want to click on someone to call them if you're not intending to transfer it. Obviously, if you double-click to call this person and there's an active call, you're connecting them to that person. So this gives you the ability to click on that person once and then call them. That's one thing it does. You can use it for chat. I don't know if you guys will be using chat, but that's where the chat button is, so I could send you a quick message, hey, FedEx is here, or you have a guest at the front office or the front of the building. It also allows you to do emojis. You can see there's emojis. You can add people in, so we could do a 3 or 4 person chat. We use that quite a bit when we're doing meetings with clients, so that way we could have a quick conversation with the client. About the client with each other. Hey, did you tell them this, or did you grab that file? And also you can send files through this. There's a little file. You can attach a file off your desktop, and then you can open it up with that last little button. Status setting, so if someone's out of the office on vacation and you're handling the calls, you could go ahead and change their status for them, say they're in a meeting, and put in a text if you want so you know what's going on. They'll be back Wednesday. So that way when a call comes in for them, you can notify the person calling in. They won't be in until Wednesday so they don't keep calling or zero out a voicemail. Here's information. You can add information. So this is from the MiCollab client, but you can add it even if you don't have that numbers that you may be associated to them. So if they have a cell phone number, you want to have a listing of it, you can put it in this. You can be notified when they log into the MiCollab, so you can call them after they get logged in. And then you can leave them a voicemail. So I could click on an individual, hit leave a voicemail, and then I would be leaving them a voicemail without ringing their phone. So if I know they're in a meeting and I don't want to disturb them, that's a way I could just leave them a quick voicemail message. So let's talk about the special handling area one quick time. I kind of went over that a few times, but I right-clicked over here, and that's why you can see I can add a contact, or I can add a feature code, or I can add a group. A group would be basically you assign a name to it, like sales or IT or whatever group makes sense to you. And then I could drag people over and drop them into that group. I can also create a contact, which could be an outside number. So if I wanted to create a couple of outside cell phone numbers that I call a lot for individuals in the organization, I could do that. Or if you wanted Emo's Pizza or whatever it is, you can create a little button for that. Here's where I've created it, so you can see what it looks like. I create a little sales group, and I just drag people and drop them in the sales group that I wanted in there. Now I got all their presence there, so I can quickly look over and now see who's on the phone or who is off the phone for sales. So if I had a generic call for sales, I could quickly just find a available person. I've also created a quick page button there, so I could go ahead and page across phones or overhead. And then I've gone ahead and created an outside number for somebody in the organization, so you can see those items. So and then I can drag these around and drop them so I can have them in whatever order makes sense to me. Okay. Just a couple best practices I wanted to talk about before we're done. One is you should use a headset if you're going to use this, because if you are answering the call, you're answering it on speaker. This actually controls your physical device that's next to you. So it's recommended that you wear a headset. If you have a physical phone, I would use it for conference calling. We kind of talked about that. It makes it a little easier. You can set up groups, but you need to set them up in the MiCollab client for them to show up on that little drop-down we looked at. You can't create that group in that special handling area without doing anything, but if you wanted to create a whole big list, you would have to do it under your favorites. And you can set up the first and last name preferences, and it's under the MiCollab client, the configuration menu under appearance, and you'll also see things for like languages and that sort of thing. So there's settings you can do, but by default it's ready to go. It's last name. So that's all I have today. Hopefully that'll help you work your console. And the recommendation is that you get it on your desktop and play with it a little bit so you get a feel for it. It's really really not complex. It's very user-friendly, but I wanted to make sure I touched on everything it does, so I gave you a lot more information than you actually need to operate the unit. So good luck, and thanks for attending.